Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Sounds of the Diaspora, Artist to Artist, conversation with yours truly, Dion Parson. It brings me great pleasure to have this guest on tonight. This is someone that means a lot to me. Someone that I met early on in my career and brought me on the scene. This gentleman is an amazing trombonist, a composer, arranger, and an educator. And he has a great story to tell, and I'm looking forward to having him share that with you guys. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ray Anderson to Sounds of the Diaspora. Hey, Ray.
Dion.
How's
Yeah,
it going?
man. Wow. It's wonderful to be on this show with you. I can't tell you what a wonderful thing this is. Man, more power to you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on the show. It's been so many years since we've seen each other, and even longer since we played. But we're gonna change that.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to change that. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but welcome to the show. You're in Long Island, New York, and you've been there for quite some time doing your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
we have a lot to talk about. But before we jump into everything, I just wanted to just say thank you for giving me my first gig when I was in college. I just want to start with saying that I was 21 years old when I met you, and we have so many stories and musical experience and recordings and all of that great stuff that goes along with being a musician. But I really appreciate you taking a chance and taking me on the road with you and the gang.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we had a lot of fun back then, and
Yeah.
it actually set my career. Started my career. It all started with you, so thank you for that.
Oh man, thanks for coming. That was
Yes,
such a joy to
yes,
meet
sir.
you and play with you, man. That was such a joy. That was just really like that was the solution for that man, you know?
Right, you're right, right.
Yeah,
We had a lot of
yeah.
fun. Yeah, yeah. So, tell us, Ray Anderson. I mean, you're you're such a unique voice in the music industry. And I grew up playing trombone. That was my first instrument, and that's one of the joys of playing with you. But I'll be honest with you, I never heard the trombone sound like that. I remember when I first met you in the studio in New York, it was just you and I playing duets, and I was
I
like,
remember. Right, right.
yeah, and you would just do all of these amazing things, and I'm playing. I'm like, wow, I never knew that could sound like that. So how did Ray Anderson get his start in music? I mean, how did you figure out what you figured out?
Well, I'm just really, really fortunate in having been around wonderful, wonderful people. I started playing the trombone. I guess I was 8 or about to turn 9 years old. And they had a school program where, the kid could more or less pick any orchestral instrument, and the school would endeavor to give him some lessons,
Right,
and your parents could rent a student model horn and eventually, if the kid wanted to do another year, the rental fee was a down payment, and so the school kind of made this possible, and it's it's always interesting to point out that so this is the fourth grade, and there were
right,
2 kids in the whole fourth grade who were crazy enough to pick the trombone as their instrument, and the other one is George Lewis,
wow, okay,
who's like the head of Columbia and is just one of the most amazing geniuses on the whole music scene, both musically and as a public intellectual. The books he's written and stuff, he's incredible. So it's like really, really lucky to have known George all this time, and
right.
that's just some kind of great good fortune that happened. But somewhere. So I grew up in Chicago, on the South Side, where the University of Chicago is, which is this neighborhood called Hyde Park, and that's really surrounded. The lake's on one side, and on the other 3 sides is the famous Black community of Chicago that, what was called Brownsville back in the day. And it's,
Mhm.
so I got to hear a lot of music. Like, the blues in Chicago is in the air,
Right.
the center for the urban blues stuff. And so it was just I had a really good, wide input of, when we were in high school, then it was all Motown,
Mhm.
and but also like, Sly and the Family Stone and James
Right.
Brown and the Jefferson Airplane and, Janis Joplin and, there were all these different inputs. But also my teacher in high school, the guy who they got to sort of run the jazz stuff there was a trombone player.
Okay.
Really lucky to study with this guy, Dean Hay. He was just so open-minded. And you'd go in there and Dean Hay would be like, well, did you ever hear this? And he's playing me Roswell Rudd with Archie Shepp live in San Francisco, with
Right.
yeah, with Donald Garrett on bass. And I mean, just like different music,
Right.
like,
Right.
like really everything. So I was very lucky to grow up there. We heard a lot of different stuff. At the end of the time I was there, I was attending these early AACM concerts, the Association for the Advancement of Creative Musicians, and
Mhm.
that's Muhal Richard Abrams, and
Right.
that's the organization that the Art Ensemble of Chicago came out of. So Joseph Jarman and all those cats, Lester Bowie,
Mhm.
Roscoe Mitchell, Malachi
Right.
Faith, Don
Right.
Moyer, and
Right.
that band, man, that really was something else. What they were doing was a whole new approach to music. The art ensemble could play something that was as avant-garde and unstructured in a way as anything that Pierre Boulez was doing in the avant-garde classical scene.
Mhm.
But the thing is, the next second, the art ensemble could go into a reggae tune.
Right.
I mean, it's like
Right.
the would just jump into the totally down groove thing would start happening. So that made a big impression on me. In a way, I learned early that, first of all, now you can do what you want. You don't
Right.
have to play a type of music. You don't have to play jazz, and that means you play standards and tunes that are a lot like standards, and it's always in time, and it always has a chord progression, and so you don't have to do that anymore.
Right. Right.
You can do a tune like that, and then the next tune can be a tune that's completely different than that, where you're really sculpting sound, you know.
Mhm.
I was very lucky in that somewhere early on there, I got the idea that the goal is really to become yourself,
Right.
with the individuation is
Mhm.
what Carl Jung would call that.
Individuation.
Individuation where you develop your individualness.
Right.
What I mean?
Right. But
Yeah.
the interesting thing, though, Ray, that I found playing with you is that you have the background in the tradition of jazz and the blues and knowing bebop and knowing the standards. I mean, you have that knowledge.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that the influence of that time, and I know we could go take it back to Coltrane at the end of the latter part of his career when he got
Mhm.
into the free stuff with Alice and all of that, and I know that's what the art ensemble was doing is the extension of that. So the
Mhm.
influence musically, I mean, as a jazz musician, you could go down so many paths, but you've really covered from like the gut bucket blues, the Delta blues, the stuff like Muddy Waters was doing, and the stuff he was doing with the Alligatory Band, and you know, it
Mhm.
just it's really interesting. I see you as a well-rounded musician with an emphasis on like the avant-garde, but what I find most interesting, Ray, is your sound. How did you actually develop your sound on the instrument? Because that's a unique approach.
Well, I do know that I spent years and years, more or less wherever I was. I didn't stay in Chicago long, but then
Okay.
I was out in California for a while, and then I got to New York in '73. So I've been in New York for a long time,
Mm.
and um, I never went to school, actually. I tried a couple times, but it just wasn't speaking to me. So I did get
Yeah.
did get a degree. I actually finally got a bachelor's degree 40 years after I
Wow.
graduated from high school.
Okay.
It took a little while,
Yeah. Yeah. You got there. It's the turtle versus the hare. You
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, this is the turtle approach to education. I'm still slowly moving along, trying to learn.
I love it. I love
Yeah, still at it. Yeah. Yeah, man.
it.
But
But
we used to just play all day.
right.
Just whoever had a place where we could play, we'd just play. Just
Right.
some friends or somebody lived there or something, and it was really kind of in that period in the '70s in New York and into the '80s. Um, it was great time for me. Mostly, I was making a living playing Latin music then. That's where I
Okay.
could get, you play trombone. There's gigs
Hmm.
in the Latin thing, and that was such a wonderful education, man. Wow.
Mm.
I learned so much stuff playing with those cats. It was just really, really fun, But in the daytime, we just go play free with whatever crazy people were around. Like
Right.
it wasn't really a jams. It was like just play,
Right.
and see where it goes and see what happens. And I did a lot of that. That used to be sort of, well, what else is there to do?
Right. Right.
Go play. And if we've got a gig later on, then well, so much better,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like in terms of developing my own stuff, that was very important to have this period where we weren't someplace calling tunes, although I did a whole bunch of that too, jam
Right.
sessions and stuff. It's like, yeah, go to the jam session, learn stable mates,
Right.
like, what I mean? Like, great. But there was, I think, essential to my development was that freedom, that openness. And
Right.
that has been I brought that into my teaching, in
Hmm.
fact.
Okay.
Yeah, that was very important for the way I finally wound up teaching, because the objective for me was, for jazz doctorates or whatever, was like, okay, how do I help these people become who they are?
Right.
I don't want them to become me. That's not it. And we don't want to just develop folks who are really, really technically proficient, but sound kind of alike,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And so that's how I was trying to get folks to experiment and check out the different possibilities of sound.
Right. Right. And I could see that, and because that's your approach. One of the first things you told me on the gig was like, everything you learn in college, forget about it. Like, forget about it. Listen to the music and find yourself. And I was like,
And you sure did, man.
yeah.
Wow. You knocked that out the park, I'll tell you.
Well, it's a different
Yeah.
approach, and it says a lot to your leadership, because I've known a couple of the guys that's come through your program at Stony Brook. They've worked for me at the University of the Virgin Islands, or I've brought them down in different capacities, and they all speak highly of your approach to teaching them improvisation and approaching tunes and stuff, and them finding their way. And a couple of them actually, like Mikel,
No, Mikel, yeah.
he's Trinidadian, and so we
Mikel
connected. He
Damani,
picked us
yeah,
up,
wow.
and he's
Woo.
classically trained. He's a monster in classical music, but he turns around and he plays some hip hop stuff. He'll take a tune like, Satin Doll and drop a hip hop groove in it and does his thing with it. And I was like,
Mhm.
whoa. And he's like, yeah, talking with Ray, I came up with these ideas, So it's really great to hear that your approach has influenced so many people in the scene, like especially classical musicians, because a lot of the cats that were out there were classical cats that came to you specifically to study jazz.
Yeah, a lot of them. I taught every year this course in improvisation,
Mm.
which has no genre in mind at all. It's not
Right,
jazz improvisation or classical
right,
improvisation. It's
right,
not, it's just improvisation. In other
right.
words, can we come together as musicians and without any structure or parameters, without saying anything about the music, like what key it's in, what tempo it's in, what it, just can we just start from silence and play something that actually means something to us, that
Mm.
actually has feeling and actually communicates, emotion and something that will actually succeed as music
Right, right.
in our opinion, And wow, that was so much fun. I
Yeah.
had such a good time doing that. Because we get these graduate students in the classical department who are all virtuosic. I mean, you have to really be able to play to get in there
Hmm.
because the classical department at Stony Brook is absolutely top shelf, directly in competition with Juilliard or
Right,
Peabody or any because they have a lot of those same folks even.
right.
So so here's these incredible musicians, many of whom have never improvised. And if there isn't something on the stand in front of them, they don't have a clue. So,
Right.
man, that was so much fun. I had a great time with them because once you start to open that up,
Right.
then amazing things start happening. It was really really a pleasure and an honor to teach these folks. And yeah, a bunch of them have gone off in different
Mm.
directions. It's
Yeah.
like yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's been so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I
Well.
should I should mention that I'm writing and getting close to finishing a book about all of this.
Oh, okay.
So there will be a book out in 25, I assume. It's certainly
Mm.
not going to make it this year,
Right.
but I've been working on it for a while, and it's about that kind of improvisation. It's essentially my educational method in a way,
Mm.
or just my observations about music.
Right.
You
Which, by the way, is like goes against like every other rule of how to improvise. And you start with this, and you have a
Yep.
chord, and you play off of these notes that are
Yeah,
important.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Exactly.
right, 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 right.
you
No,
know.
we start from the other end
Start from
entirely.
the other end. I mean, which for me, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm in a good position because I came up in the traditional school, learning all of that stuff, and then
Mhm,
going on the road with you and witnessing it with between you and Mark Elias and Mark Dressler and Fumio and all the guys, and seeing that come to life and seeing the audience reaction when you create something from scratch and it turns into a thing, and then the next night you do the same thing and it's a different thing,
mm,
and I've
mhm,
witnessed it, so I know both methods work, and there's an audience for both methods,
mhm, mhm.
which says a lot. And so yeah, yeah, congratulations on the book, and we look forward to when when that comes out. Maybe we can do a special presentation on that concept
Oh,
on
that
our
would be
show.
beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be great. And one of the chapters of the book is, in fact, talking about making a distinction between technique and music itself.
yeah. Okay.
So that's a deep That's a deep subject because you can't play music without technique. I mean,
Right.
even if what you're doing is banging on a can or something, you have a
Right.
way of banging on that can,
Right.
So, so it's very important. Like we all need technique, and all of us presumably wish we had more than we have.
Right. Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so, but the thing is that to make a distinction between technique and therefore practicing technique and music itself, the thing that grabs your heart, the thing that really changes your feeling about being alive on earth, that's a different thing.
Right. Right.
That's,
Yeah.
that's the soul. So unfortunately, in a lot of education, there's almost no time or emphasis on the music part. It's all technique. You learn this scale and then you learn that scale. You learn this chord, and then you learn these chords. You learn
Right.
this thing of theory, and then you learn more advanced theory and stuff. But, when you listen to Muddy Waters, there's something going on there that's more than technique.
Right. Right.
Even if you listen to Louis Armstrong, the greatest technical trumpet player that ever was in many ways,
Mhm.
uh, there's something going on that's beyond the technique.
Right.
It's true for anybody you name, any of
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Listen to Max Roach, it's like, well, the technique is unbelievable,
Hmm.
but there's something even stronger about the way Max uses the
The
technique.
technique, the feel that comes along with it.
That's,
You
that's
can't
right.
you can't teach that feeling. That's something that derives from playing all the time. That's
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that. I think yeah, and I think that's the ultimate question for every educator, because like you said, you can technique upon technique, theory behind this and the theory behind that.
Mhm.
Like Tony Williams is like him and Buddy Rich are like two clinicians on the drums, and then when they play, it's like a whole nother thing. And being able
Mhm.
to get that out there, um, yeah, that's the ultimate question. How do you convey feeling?
Right. So the book and the class is always this exploration of communication.
Right,
Like, what is it that makes it communicate?
right,
You know, and technique certainly helps, and technique is impressive. If you have incredible technique, that
right,
is really impressive.
right, right.
You know,
Yeah,
but ultimately, that's not the music.
right.
There's
The
something else.
the conversation that goes along with between the two or three or however musicians, that conversation that goes along, which is conveyed through the technique, creates the feeling. And
That's right.
that's the
That's
music. That's
right.
what we want to get to. That's where we're going with it.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
It's
yeah.
an ongoing process. This
It
I'm looking
is.
forward to that book. That's gonna be an interesting. It's gonna be a controversial book too, so you know.
Okay, good. I'm ready.
A lot of people gonna be like, "What? He came up with what?"
He said, "What?"
I'm really looking forward to that book because, like I said, I was part of that process. So and
Yeah.
it's been a question I've had from myself also growing up because I didn't take my first drum lesson until I was in college, and I was playing all along, and I would always be like, "Man, I wish I could play better. I wish I could play better." And guys were like, "Yeah, you need to go practice, but practice what? What do you
Mm.
practice to develop your technique?" But I was playing all the time, so the feel was there, but I couldn't take that feel to the next level because I didn't have the technical proficiency,
Right.
and that's
Right.
all part. So it's like which came first, the egg or the chicken or the egg?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
The
all
way I put it in the book is actually we need a marriage.
yeah,
We
yeah,
need a marriage between our technique
yeah.
and our spirit and creativity and risk-taking intuitive part of our mind. We need to marry those two.
Right,
We need
right,
the technique to support the intuition and the that, and we need the intuition to encourage the technique to stretch and see
Mhm.
what more could we do? Could we
Right.
play that even faster? Could we play it even quieter?
Right.
So I think of it as a marriage. That's like you need them both.
Right. Yeah, and I think also what helps for all of the greats is to have a good teacher or a mentor to actually help you
Hmm.
develop both the intuition, which is the creativity, and the technical ability, which is the theory, and that
Hmm.
helps in the process. Having a good mentor, because trying to figure that out by yourself, you're gonna, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
takes time.
it takes time. It
Yeah,
takes time. Yeah,
right.
and I think you as that mentor, as that educator for a lot of these folks, help to weave that path between the intuition, the creativity, the technique, and all of that stuff. It really it helps, and that's what an educator should be.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that was always my approach as soon as I sort of suddenly had this job. Like
Yeah.
I got hired there for a 1 year, like adjunct thing for a year. But the funny thing is, in August, right before this semester that I was hired in started, right before I started, the guy who was the head of the department quit.
Mm.
He just up and quit. He didn't give them warning, really. I
Wow.
mean, August, the stuff starts in a week.
Right.
This pre-registration and stuff, So this guy quit. So the department just said to me, said, "Well, Ray, you got it.
Tag.
You
You're it.
run the department any way you want to. You and
Uh,
I don't come from education, so this was really quite hilarious in a way. It's like,
yeah.
huh? What am I?
Yeah.
What?
That's beautiful because hey, from all the years you spent on the road, your experience alone, that's the PhD right there. And here you are writing a book and all of that. I mean, so
Yeah,
it is it's really it was that right time for you. It was that time.
it was.
Yeah,
It was really the right time.
yeah,
Yeah, it was real. I'm really fortunate in that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That was exactly the right
The
time.
right time, and you've again the folks you've influenced and all the great things you've done, and yeah, so kudos for you. 20 years later, and you're still at it. How did you say? Influencing those younger minds.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a
It's a
beautiful thing.
beautiful thing. Yeah, and that's right, right.
Yeah.
Trying
Well,
to pay it forward, man.
yeah.
That's
There you
what
go. There you go.
there's
And
nothing else
you've
to
always
do.
have. You've always have from the time I met you. You've always taking that time to share what you've had and you know I know we could stay on the education topic for a while, but I want to shift that paying it forward
Mm,
into some of the presentations that you've done, because you've always had your hand in a couple of cookie jars with the musical presentations you've done, and
mm,
you've had the
mhm,
slickophonics and
mhm,
alligatory band and
mhm,
pocket brass band and bass
mhm.
trombone and the duet. How did these projects come about? You don't have to talk about all of them, but like like a bass trombone project. I mean, that's so unique. How did that come about?
You know, the the funny thing is most of them come about because I wind up playing with friends.
Right,
Like I meet these people and we play because when musicians, how do you meet a musician? Well, you play. That's the conversation.
right,
It's
right.
like so we get introduced by playing, and then there's something in the playing that feels so natural and somehow easy that
Hmm.
you just feel like, okay, let's do that some more. Like
Right,
let's do some more of that. I mean, the
right.
symphonics was that way, bass trombone was that way for sure. You know, um, Alligatory was a little bit more, I had an image, so
Mhm.
I was thinking of like, but even that image was kind of like, well, I like that space that the Slickophonics was in, which is like, okay, creative jazz musicians play dance and pop music.
Right.
What is that? You know,
Right.
so I love that. That was really fun, you know,
Mhm.
and folks liked it too. And so then when the chance to do the alligatory came around, um, I should give kudos to this wonderful guy Peter Schaefer in Bremen, who is the head of the German radio in Bremen, and he got this idea to put on a festival honoring my music like before I died. He said
Okay.
he said, you know, they always do this stuff after somebody dies. Why don't we do it like before you die? And that's
Mhm.
his sense of humor, you know. So
Right.
he made a little festival called the Many Slides of Ray Anderson.
Okay.
Had about 4 different groups, and one of them was the Alligatory Band. I just created it for that festival. I said, okay, I'm going to make a band. You know, I want drums and percussion. You know,
Mhm.
I want electric bass and guitar. You know, and I need a couple of horns. I got to have another horn to go with me. So that form was really that worked really well. That was
Right.
yeah yeah.
Great, man. Great. And all of them have their own sound and their own uniqueness, which I enjoy. But I know your latest, how should I say, your latest I don't want to say project, endeavor is doing solo trombone.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. I must be crazy. You know, at this age, I'm playing these solo concerts. It's like, oh man, you know, but I got these offers. It's like, and you know, and I had played a few in the past. I had played some solo concerts. I got a NEA grant long ago in '83. I
Mhm.
got a grant to play some solo concerts from the National Arts Education or whatever that the National NEA.
And the National Endowments of the Arts.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, that right. That thing. Yeah. So I had messed around with the form, but then I'd really, man, I only did one maybe every 10 years or something. But then I got a couple of offers, and one was a festival in France where they said, we want you to come and play a solo concert. I said, okay.
Mhm.
You know, you know, basic musician thing is like you just say yes. You
Right,
know, it's
right.
like whatever.
Then you figured it out afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. Whatever, whatever you get offered, it's just like, yes, yes, okay, yes. And then you can kind of get in trouble, but this is good trouble to use
Right.
John Lewis's phrase. You know, like it's a different kind of good trouble. Um, yeah, and then I got a, a bunch of them in a row that I have this wonderful agent in Europe that I've used for 30 years now. And
Mhm.
he got a bunch of these things. So we said, well, you got to go on and record it now, you know. So
Okay.
yeah, so I did. I made this CD, and that is so interesting. It's unlike anything else.
Yeah. Well,
Really, yeah,
you shared a song with us that I would love to play for our audience from your solo album, and this is standard. Just squeeze me. Let's play for our audience, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Ray Anderson solo. Just squeeze me.
yeah.
Yes, sir. There's a lot of squeezing going on up in there.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
So you just did a solo concert, right, recently?
Yeah, I did 2 just now in September. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. One in Harlem at a place called Silvana,
Mm-hmm.
and another one at the end of the month at the National Jazz Museum, also up there in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. It was nice to dust that off. I can still do it.
Yeah, that's great, man. And the
Yeah.
reception was good. Had a good time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I had a great time. Yeah.
that's a great project that you're doing, the solo project, because again, it's an extension of all of the playing that you've done over the years. Because even on the gigs that I've done with you, some of the songs sometimes will just end up in you playing a couple choruses solo, and then or a duet or something. So you've always worked in different configurations, which is really nice.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. Yeah, the challenge of that of like, okay, the melody, the harmony, and the rhythm,
Right.
and you got it. Nobody else is nobody else is contributing. You got to somehow juggle all those things.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, especially trying to play a tune. Just
Yeah.
smoothly.
Yeah.
So, and it's also always in my mind a dedication to Art Barron, my good friend Art
Art
Barron,
Baron. Yeah.
the master of the plunger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Art played with everybody from Stevie Wonder to Duke Ellington. He was in
Mm-hmm.
Duke's last band.
Yeah.
So he's an absolute master of that, and just the best person in the world, man.
Yes.
He's been such a good friend.
Great.
Uh, and
Good stuff.
the plunger is such that's an important part of the trombone and trombone playing.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's a whole nother art in itself. And
It
just
is
just as a brass instrument, just playing the instrument is one thing, but then when you add that element, the history going way back.
way back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the way you can talk with a plunger
Right.
is just that's really fun to do.
Yeah, that's great, man. Well, you're doing a good job of that, man. So continued success with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, man. I want to jump into some of this other music because you're so unique and so great what you shared with us. I'm enjoying this. So, I thought I knew the Ray Anderson book, but I'm learning some new tunes as well. So,
Swing it.
yeah, so I'm enjoying it. So the next song we have up is a cuppa.
A cuppa. So this is from the trio bass drum bone,
Right.
which is an entirely cooperative group. There's no band leader. And
Mhm.
we're getting close to 50 years. We've been
Wow.
playing together. We started playing together in 77. And
Nice.
we're still doing it, and no one has been sent to the hospital by anyone else. And it's like,
Great, great, great. Well, let's check this out. Let's check
all
this out.
right.
A cuppa. Bass trombone.
Those people are crazy.
Oh man, you know it's unique, but it's you know, how should I say, it's influential also because as you listen to the direction that the music is going to, it's a solid foundation for all of that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And one of the things that always comes into my mind is that there's a sort of a parallel with modern art in the sense of cubism and the way then it's a portrait, but you're looking at the subject of the portrait from two angles at once.
Right.
So it's not just a portrait, but it's a portrait where you're seeing the side of the head as well as the front of the, it's like
Right. Yeah.
are they're not exactly where you think they should be when
Mhm.
you listen. You know what I mean? It's
Oh
kind of
yeah.
like, wow, it's sort of turning around or something.
Mhm.
What I mean? It's like, it's yeah,
It's
that's a Jerry Hemingway tune. He
yeah.
wrote, and
Okay.
yeah, it's fascinating in the way that it just kind of, it kind of shifts on you.
Right.
It's sort of when you think it's going to land somewhere, it doesn't land there. Instead, it goes like this or something.
Right. Right. But it works. It works. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Ray Anderson and bass trombone. That's another one of collaborative projects, and that's a great representation of that group. And you've shared some great music with us, so I'm just going to keep rolling. The next song we have up is Tapper Jack, and I know that's another one that's dear to you. So tell us about that real quick.
Tapper Jack is from the Alligatory Band,
Right.
and the tune predates the band. But this version that the Alligatory Band did of this is probably my favorite. I mean, I've played that tune a lot, and it's my my late wife Jackie Raven was a tap dancer, so this is dedicated to her. Always was,
Okay.
Everybody
Great.
calls him Jack,
Yes.
and this is Tapper Jack. It's for
Beautiful.
Jackie. Yeah.
Beautiful. For Jackie, let's check it out. Tapper. All right, all right. So my one question is, what's the form? I'm just playing.
Right.
I love
That's the form, right?
it. Oh, no, I remember that one. That's a beautiful one. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's been a standard in the
yeah,
book for a long time, right?
yeah, yeah. Tapper Jack. That's yeah. You have to have like rhythmically just like solid to make that happen the right way, because it can go a lot of different directions, but everybody needs to have that stuff in place. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that band
that's
was so incredible that with Tommy Campbell on drums and then Frank Colon on percussion
mhm.
and Jerome Harris on guitar and Gregory Jones on the bass. Man, that rhythm section it's like,
Yeah,
it doesn't get any better.
yeah.
I
That's
mean, that's
great
good.
arrangement of it. I remember playing it. It was that's really nice. The way that
Yeah,
came out.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
doing it,
You could
Ray.
play that, man. You sure you yeah.
Unique
And
sound, unique sound.
That was Lou Soloff, my
Oh, that's Lou. Yeah,
brother Lou Soloff. Yeah, still miss him, man.
yeah.
He's gone. Yeah,
Great, great, great.
yeah.
Well, we have an interesting song here that you you shared with us. This is Microwave Woman.
Uh-huh. Yup.
So let's play Microwave Woman, and then you'll tell us about it.
Okay. All right. Yep.
Let's check this out.
I got a microwave woman, and she treats me like a fool. Yeah, I got a microwave woman, and she treats me like a fool. Every time I'm in her oven, she messes up my molecules. Now I like to preheat my oven and keep that dial set on low. I like to preheat my oven, keep that dial set on low. But this microwave woman, she don't cook nothing slow. Now I'm a slow and careful shopper. Only organic will do. And I'm a very careful chopper. I like bite-sized pieces in my stew. I like to slowly simmer for at least an hour or two. But this here microwave woman, in 30 seconds, she's all through. Oh, that microwave woman, she pops me in and then goes zap. The woman cooks so fast, I can't even take off my wrap. Oh, baby. A microwave woman, all your cooking's done on high. Oh, microwave woman, all your cooking's done on high. Before I even come to a boil, you done ate and said goodbye. Oh, goodbye. Goodbye.
Microwave woman.
Terrible. It's terrible.
Luckily, this is an adult show. So
Yeah, right.
oh man, I've never heard that one before. That's an interesting one.
That's a tradition of the blues, the double entendre blues. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
Those lyrics were written by my late wife, Jackie Raven,
oh, okay.
time ago. So so those are a woman's lyrics.
All right. Well, hey, beautiful Ray, man. It's unfortunately our time is up. I just want to thank you for all the wonderful music you shared and the people that have helped you to create the music, whether they wrote lyrics or inspired you in different ways, and all the wonderful, amazing musicians that you presented tonight.
Musicians.
Yeah. And our brief topic on education, and your thoughts and approach and concept. So we look forward to when the book comes out.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
hopefully we'll have a conversation on Sounds of the Diaspora when the book comes out about your concept, and we dive into some of that more. But again, Ray, just thank you for being true to yourself and the great music that you're making, and for all the folks that you've helped along the way, including me. So,
Yeah, and I have to say, Dion, right back at you, man. All the people you've helped along the way and what you've created now down in the Virgin Islands down there and all that music you've made, man.
yeah.
Thank you for the music. Yeah.
Thank you.
Music and the education, man. That's
Yes, sir.
wow. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we're here for. That's what we're doing, to just
That is. That's what we're here for.
share on whatever levels we can. I tell people at back in St. Thomas when they ask me, "Yeah, why did you move back home? What do you?" I said, "Man, I'm just doing my part. I'm just doing my part. That's this is the chapter that I'm at in my life, and this is the part that I'm doing."
Right.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So before you leave, share with our audience how they can follow you, social media, website, what you have coming up next.
I do finally have a website. I had a website that drifted off into the cyber sphere at a certain point, but I did get it back.
Okay.
and it's just rayanderson.org.
Okay.
So that's where tours and gigs and things, and that's where there'll be a link to this show, and that's that's my main thing. I'm hopelessly behind on social media. Like basically, I don't have any.
Okay. So the website is
I'm not actually an antisocial person, but I can't seem to get a hold of the media part of it.
All right. So the website is at rayanderson.org.
Yeah, and you can email me from there, and there's, that'll
Okay.
help. That'll
Great,
do
great.
something.
Well,
Yeah.
Ray, again, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join us on Sounds of the Diaspora. It's always a pleasure, and looking forward
Yeah.
to the next time.
What a pleasure. Thank you, Dion.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
so much. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, man.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right.
All right, Ray. Take
Yep.
care.
Yep. Mhm.
Bye. There you go. That was the one and only Mr. Ray Anderson sharing his thoughts and music and concepts with us. And we'll have him back once when his book is released in 25, he said, and we'll have some more insight on Ray's thinking and his conception of music and improvisation and all of those great stuff. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us, and please join us again next week as we bring to you Sounds of the Diaspora. Our next guest for next week, the one and only Mr. John Hatfield, will be joining us next week. All right? So you guys take care. All the best. Until next week.